The film starts with Brandon's consistent nightmare of a woman drowning. As soon as he wakes up, he sets to leave Burbank for an assignment, despite the weather forecast to limit exposure to the air. At the airport, Jed, a triathlete, awaits his girlfriend, Ava, for a planned trip to a resort in Cabo. Jed brings his never-serious friend, Kyle, who is excited to see Ava without any luggage. Probably, Kyle is too fast to praise her for bringing just her backpack. Amazement could be an understatement the moment he sees Brandon, her bodyguard, pushing a pile of luggage behind her. Seeing his girlfriend flusters Jed a lot, so he welcomes her, only to hear that Brandon is coming with them to Cabo. Ava tells him that her father, the governor, insisted that her bodyguard accompany her on the trip. As expected, Brandon scopes the place without anybody knowing, and this surprises Kyle. Jed's mood switches after he attempts to convince Ava to let Brandon go home, but Ava promises that her bodyguard will be barely seen around them. Travelers stroll in and out of the airport, and so do Hank and Nana, an old couple, and their granddaughter, Rosa, prepare their bags to travel to Cabo for a vacation. Nana admires her granddaughter, wishing her daughter, Mandy, was still alive to see this lovely moment. While Hank and Rosa go ahead to wait for their flight, Mr. Tibbs, Rosa's favorite teddy, falls off her backpack. This trip might be one never to be forgotten in a hurry when Ava tells Jed and Kyle of her plan to drop out of law school and intern at her father's charity. Jed wants Ava to believe in herself and not work under pressure, but this puts off the little spark on their vacation. The moment Rosa realizes that Mr. Tibbs is no longer with her, she begins a thorough search for it. Halfway through her search, she bumps into Ava and ruins her shawl with coffee. Ava becomes irritated by this act and speaks rudely to Rosa. This frightens the little kid, who runs back to Hank for consolation. Nobody would have thought Ava would make up for her rudeness to Rosa by finding Mr. Tibbs, not even Brandon would have thought so. Ava becomes friends with Rosa, who is glad to have her teddy back. Meanwhile, Brandon already knows Ava and her friends don't need him in Cabo. He is ready to leave, but Ava feels unsure about the vacation. Even though Brandon has been her bodyguard since her childhood, Ava still wants him around in Cabo. This makes them remember the accident that claimed the life of Ava's mother. Brandon promises to protect Ava during the vacation and be discreet about it. They prepare to take off, and Jed summons the courage to reconcile with Ava. He reassures her of his faith in her, and of course, a sweet promise to stay by her side. The flight attendant, Danilo, offers them snacks, but Kyle indirectly mocks him, only to become the object of ridicule. It is always certain that Nana will bring some chocolates and sweets for their trip, and this makes Rosa excited once again. She feels leaving England is better than she thought, and she now has a new friend, Ava, who is nice to her. However, Ava is scared about the almost empty plane and the rattling flight. Kyle scares her with jokes about the old plane, but Jed assures her that everything is under control. A little incident on air makes Ava afraid again, not just her, but everyone on the plane. Rosa observes the side wheels of the plane cracking off. Just like the passengers, you may also have to fasten your seatbelt. Disaster is drawing near to your screen. What happens when a cabin crew is called to the cockpit for a briefing? Maybe you will find out in the next scene. A piece of the broken wheels hits the window, creating a hole in the plane. A passenger who refuses to heed the warning to fasten his seat belt gets carried away by the turbulent air. It doesn't get any better as a hole is dented on the plane, dragging along plenty of passengers with it. Seat belt or not, everyone is in danger now. The plane takes a safe turn, perhaps it's unsafe after all. The pieces of the broken part hit Brandon first. Kyle never saw this coming, but his arm sustains a bigger injury to forestall the danger ahead. The plane crashes into water, and water trumps on the fuselage. The plane becomes flooded, drowning Grandpa, and of course, the majority of the passengers. Despite the broken metal in his chest, Brandon manages to save Nana and Rosa. None of the passengers ever thought they would find themselves in an airlock, in the middle of nowhere. Jed and Kyle become fidgety, but trust Brandon to shake him and Kyle out of their fear. He asks Danilo to keep an eye on the support frame in the rear gallery. As for Ava, Brandon asks her to watch the water level, after observing the slope side. Of course, the fear doubles when Ava finds out there is no reception to make calls. But Danilo thinks the pilot must have made radio contact before the plane crashed. Before they can think of help, they must survive. Danilo finds out that the emergency oxygen tanks are empty, but Nana recalls that there is another oxygen tank in the aisle. Brandon offers to get the tank, and he promises Ava that he will return. But this promise is far too fetched to fulfill. A shark shows up just as Brandon finds the oxygen tank. The bodyguard is not afraid to fight his way to deliver the tank. His wounds and bites from the shark are too much to let him live, so he leaves in death. Devastation is an understatement to describe how Ava feels, but they must stay alive, as Brandon said. Just in time, rescue helicopters parade the air and widen their search for the crashed plane. Governor Abramson wants regular updates since Ava is there. Down in the sea, Nana, who was once an army nurse, fixes Kyle's arm while they wait, as Brandon said. The fuselage cracks more and Jed thinks they should do something rather than wait doing nothing. But there is nothing to be done than wait. The fish in the water pushes the plane out of its stable seabed slope, which means danger and depth. Ava suggests they swim their way out of the hole on the plane, so they can get help. But there might be no way to survive without oxygen and not stay eaten. And the master of all impossibilities grips them once again. This time, the fear is higher than when Brandon was still with them. Even Ava is reminded of her mother again, but she is consoled by little Rosa, who wants to live happily with Nana. Kyle remembers seeing some passengers with dive gears, so they all begin a search to find the gears. Fortunately, the rescue ops find the plane, and just when they proceed with the preparations to rescue the survivors, a shark eats one of the divers. Right in front of Ava, Rosa, Kyle, Nana, Jed, and Danilo. The survivors figure out that the other diver must be dead, but the rescue helicopter sets to leave, thinking that the divers are still alive. However, Jed and Ava search underneath the water to find the other diver so they can use his tank. Just to lighten up the mood, Jed pretends to drown in the water, scaring all of them. Instead, his body becomes lightened as a shark chops off his right leg. Nana tries to sustain the injury as best as she can, but this means one thing: Jed may never swim again. Or rather, he may never see Ava again. They must find the scuba gear, so Danilo locates the hatch to the loading gear of the plane. Amidst her fear, Ava offers to bring the gears from the flooded hatch. She succeeds in doing this, which means they have to leave the plane as fast as they can. The sharks attack the plane, cracking the thin metal covering the survivors. Ava helps them out with the wetsuits, but Nana refuses to wear one, giving up hers for Rosa. Finally, it is time to swim up to the surface. With Ava as the lead, they all followed suit, hoping to find the other diver's tank. Fear does something again. This time, it allows Nana to forfeit the escape plan, and she decides to stay behind. Same as Kyle, as funny as he is, he goes no way up, and a shark feeds on his bones. Now, it's just Ava, Rosa, and Danilo. Luckily, Ava finds the diver's oxygen tank, so she lets Danilo and Rosa go up first. This means she is all by herself, and she must survive, just as she promised Brandon she would. With her courage high up like never, Ava starts to swim with no oxygen tank or canisters to chase away the sharks. This time, no Brandon or Jed would save her from the sharks, but Ava relies on herself to get out of there. Suddenly, she finds herself on the surface. However, Danilo and Rosa are nowhere to be found. The rescue ops show up on time, and Ava gets rescued, only to find Danilo and Rosa in the helicopter already. 4 of them make it out of the crashed plane. You're probably guessing who the 4th survivor is. Rosa's Mr. Tibbs. But Rosa wants to remember her grandpa and Nana, so she leaves Mr. Tibbs with them. It's just 3 of them, 3 survivors who never got to Cabo for their vacation. You might be thinking of going to Cabo for a vacation. You should probably watch out for an old plane with rickety wings. Thank you for watching, guys. If you love movies, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.